The next game on the list is a game that plays the same from the same developers who made Total Eclipse Turbo, but with a different twist, and was the first North American PlayStation title to get an M for Mature rating, and that is game number 13, Off World Intercepter Extreme. Also originally an exclusive title for the 3DO, but became multi-platform a year later. Published and developed by Crystal Dynamics. The story is about you and the other three known, including you as the Trash Man, joined a bounty hunter group as new recruitments, with the leader of the organization, Colonial Fancy, yes, that's actually his real name, and his assistant, Helga, who provides intel on fugitives and banters. What they do is stopping crime bosses all over the galaxy, and tell brief missions of what the enemy boss is a crime of and try to kill them. There are a total of 6 crime bosses in 6 different outworld planets. Scorch 7, an arid planet, Atlantia Point, a tropical planet, Bastion, a superhighway planet, Las Lunas, a barren landscape planet, Silt Sorrow, a fiery volcano planet, and Morpheus Moors, an alive and infected planet. Alongside are 6 of the main Interceptor vehicles, each with a different strength and weapon. Vindicator, Orion Interceptor, Roadkill 409, Violator, Abductor, and VV Sector. However, after the first mission, all of your 3 trash men have died and you are the only one left alive. Now it's up to you to take down the rest of the bosses and save the galaxy. There is some few development history of the game, and that was created by a lead designer, Greg Marquez, who did the previous title, Total Eclipse, as a tools designer. And Crystal Dynamics asked if he wanted to create a prototype of the game, but make it on land because of his impressive tech design. And the title was originally under the name Orion Off-Road, but was changed to Off World Interceptor because reasons. After that, they liked it and greenlit the game to be released in 1994 for the 3DO. Though the game was in completion, but there was one thing the developers had a huge problem with, was not the actual game itself, but the FMV cutscenes. The people who worked on the live action cutscenes felt that it was god-awful, had one of the cheesiest and campy dialogues to ever put out, and was way too boring, making it unwatchable. So what did they do? Remove all the live action cutscenes and instead just put pictures with text? Nope, what they did is just kept the FMV cutscenes, but have overdubbed commentary with 2 guys and a lamp in a silhouette foreground, and mocked all of the terrible cutscenes from beginning to end, basically pulling off a Mystery Science Theater 3000 on it.
We will download the next directional vector.
I spell a bad accent.
That's easy for you to say.
Hey, wasn't Lupus the little booger eater in Bad News Bears?
No, it's a Corey Haim movie.
Is it in the process?
What?
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 Finish your sentence, you wiener.
Aggressive.
Yeah, your agents wear dresses.
Major.
And they write romance novels.
Suspected of everything from money laundering to drug trafficking.
And smelling like a piece of poo.
He can sneak up on Colonel Fancy and snap his little neck.
Seems you've been underestimated.
Damn!
Do we have to look at this thing again?
This one better be dirty, Fancy.
Creep sanguine.
And I'm not listening. La 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 la.
We can't hear you. La 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 la.
Alright. No kiss or anything? Who needs you?
And it's not even an optional feature. At the back of the box, it even shows a bullet point of it. Oh, and by the way, if you recognize their voices, you may know them as stand-up comedians Brian Posehn and Doug Benson. Although were not popular back in the 90s until the 2000s with their movies, so hearing them back in the 90s is very neat to hear. So with that said, it actually worked and had a very unique to all of the other previous FMV game cutscenes. However, the only country that did not have the MST3K treatment was the Japanese version, since they were dubbing the original video, and is actually the only version to see the original cutscenes without the silhouettes that was pasted on the bottom of the screen. When the game was originally released for the 3DO in November 22nd, 1994, it received mixed reviews. Sarah Nade of GamePro criticized the music and slightly hokey sound effects, but praised the graphics and cutscenes and concluded once any early frustration wears off, Awei's great graphics and gameplay will drive you wild. Mike Wiegand of Electronic Gaming Monthly commented, "The unusual perspective takes some time to get used to, but the graphics and sound effects really show off the 3DO capabilities." And finally, a reviewer from Next Generation said of the gameplay that it's a little more fast and furious than usual, and addictive in a mindless way, but nothing you haven't seen before. However, he felt that the Mystery Science Theater 3000 style commentaries were effectively funny and added freshness and originality to the game. But rinse and repeat, it had to be ported to other consoles due to the 3DO failures. The game was ported to the Sega Saturn and, of course, the PlayStation. But they did add in one more word to the title, Extreme, thus named Off World Intercepter Extreme. However, unlike the previous title, which added in one more word and did nothing different except better graphics and frame rate, this one actually did change up some things, like making the levels even longer, changing the game hub to be more like an arcade style game, have certain levels to have fog effects, which was only exclusive to the Saturn version, not getting tripped over and let the aircraft lift you up, but let go and have to turn over for half a second, and finally, removing the gas meter and not wait until the gas truck arrives. But I think it's for the best to remove it due to the fact that it was an awful gimmick to begin with. When the PlayStation version was released in North America in September 29th, 1995, Europe in November 1st, 1995, and Japan in November 22nd, 1995, it got a positive reception from reviewer Scary Larry of GamePro, and while he criticized the world design and lacking imagination, he was pleased with the fast pace and absence of slowdown, and felt the high-speed shooting action would appeal to most gamers. However, this would not last for long, because many years later, when people play or see the game, they just think it's just a poor man's version of Twisted Metal, even though it was released a year apart before Twisted Metal, or 2 months if you had the PlayStation version. But we'll talk about this game another time. For now, let's get on to the review. The graphics is not good. I'm not saying it's bad because they used the same engine from Total Eclipse Turbo, and I think the background is alright. But it's the sprites that aged badly. It looks pixelated, especially the bosses. And the movement just feels janky compared to Total Eclipse sprites that were okay, but still looks decent. So overall, it's not good. The presentation is actually good. I did enjoy the MST3K cutscenes, but for some reason bleeped out the swear words.
What? You never finish the sentence, you I hate that Colonel Fancy!
In the original 3DO version, they didn't censor the swears.
You never finish the sentence, you bastard!
But both the PlayStation and Saturn versions do. I don't know why Sony and Sega did this. Seemingly it's an M-rated game. But for some odd reason, both think it was going to be T-rated by bleeping out the swears. Guess they just forgot the rating, I guess. But who knows. And the hub is nice to look at, showing all the weapon items, your cash bar, the timer, and whatnot. The music is great and even more adrenaline than Total Eclipse, which is not a bad thing. They're both great soundtracks and well earned to listen that I highly recommend it if you like this kind of music. And finally, the gameplay. For the pros, the controls are fine. It does have a few janky movements sometimes, but quickly ignored once you get the hang of it. And the weapon items do come off useful for levels like missiles, nitro, and my favorite, the nuke, when it takes out every enemy on screen. So yeah, the weapons are good. As for the cons, most of the levels do look the same, but at the very least did change the backgrounds so they could have a different feel to it. Next is the shop. You collect cash during levels. Once you collect enough money, you head to the shop and buy items, upgrades, or an interceptor. Even though not expensive to buy item or upgrades to your vehicle, but trying to buy an interceptor is hella expensive. Like seriously, I'm in a bounty hunter organization and I have to pay an interceptor with money? And plus, once you buy the vehicle and sooner or later want to get a previous vehicle you had, you have to pay it again. I mean, come on! And finally, we have one level we need to talk about. Yes, I know this doesn't count or even qualify as a con, but it should be, because this level is very hard and frustrating that it needs to be heard. And that is Atlantia Point Level 3. Dear God, screw this level. Not only does it have way too many enemies, but there's so many landmines that you need to maneuver your way out of this gauntlet or enemies and mines. And you can't slow down because of the time limit. Otherwise, you lose a life and have to start back at the level again. But the second part of the level is, at best, tolerable. With that said, on to the conclusion. The game is a lot fun than Total Eclipse, even though the graphics are not good, expensive interceptors, and one level that is a gauntlet of enemies and mines, but I still did enjoy some few parts like the MST3K spoof cutscenes and the awesome music. Although it never spawned off to become its own series, and is not the best game Crystal Dynamics had ever made, but either or not, it's a fun, mindless vehicular shooter. And if you had a liking to this genre, I recommend it either physical copy or emulate it. I give my official rating a 4 out of 6. Next time on the PlayStation Years, I'll be tackling one of the most famous fighting game series ever made by a well-made formal company, Midway. It is the third game in the long-running series, and believe it or not, had a history with the PlayStation port between Sony, Midway, and Williams. What is that game? Well, I'll tell you in the next review. Thanks for watching.